Hi book lovers, and welcome to Bookmas Day 9, and we're doing the end of the year tag, and I kind of hate doing it not right at the end of the year, so obviously I'm still gonna read a few books from now on, but I feel like the answers won't change that much anyway. And these are basically the book awards, so I thought that I should also dress up for that, and I feel like I did. I mean, I put a nice blouse on, so okay, can we all appreciate that? Because I want to pay my respect for these beautiful books. Well, they're not all nice awards, to be honest. There are definitely a few that go home with prizes they're probably not as proud of, but that's life, you know. And I basically took Des' end of the year tag and used her questions. There might be a few changes if I thought that I didn't really have a good answer for that or I wanted to add something. I really tried my best to not use the same books for the questions over and over again. There will be some repetition, and I also wanted to only do one book for each answer, but sometimes that just didn't work. Okay. I'm so excited for this year's book awards, for this year's end of the year tag. Well, it's also my first time me doing this, but let's start with the first one. And the first one, unfortunately, is not a positive one because it's my biggest disappointment of the year. Unfortunately, that award goes to The Striker by Anna Huang. And look how thick this book is. This just really didn't have to be this thick, and it was just mainly very boring. It was still like a 3-star read. I just really didn't care about these characters, about the journey. This could have been half the book, I feel like, and yeah, it was just not for me, so this was my biggest disappointment, unfortunately. Next up, we have the Underdog of the year, and the first one I have here is False God by C.W. Farnsworth, and she's definitely an author that I think overall is just underrated. I enjoyed the dynamic so much. It kind of felt like a fresh romance. They feel like magnets that always come together and they just can't seem to part ways, even though they think it would be better. And I just really enjoyed that book, and I feel like no one ever talks about it. So there's my first one. My second one, because I also want to mention this one, especially now that we're still in like Christmas season, is Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. Again, I just didn't see anyone picking this one up, but wow, this was an incredible Christmas romance, and I feel like, you know, Christmas romances are something that they can be enjoyable, but are they ever really good? I enjoyed this so much. Maybe this won't be for everyone because, again, the characters are very flawed, and, you know, there's not like one right answer. The things that happened in the past, because this is second chance, I understand if someone can't really get over it, but I enjoyed this one so much. So yeah, I feel like people should pick this up during Christmas. The next question is a book that was overhyped, and I'm kind of scared to say that because, you know, I don't like the word overhyped because in the end of the day, if you love it and if a lot of people love it, that just means I have a different opinion, not necessarily that it is overhyped. But the book that just is very popular and didn't work out for me is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I really didn't like when Forbes became a father to his biological daughter, that the father who raised the daughter was kind of just put aside and was like, yeah, Forbes is here, the hero. I don't know, I just didn't like the storyline. I felt it was a bit neglected of the adoptive family, and I also feel like that Forbes and what is her name, Rosie, kind of felt like children, and they were in their like mid to end 20s, I think. And yeah, I just didn't like the third act breakup. I didn't like their dynamic, and yeah, overall this book just wasn't for me. Let's talk a book now that surprised me, and I have two here because, you know, I can't choose. The first one is Check and Mate by Ellie Hazelwood, and this one surprised me because I didn't even want to pick this one up. This is YA, and even though I really like Ellie Hazelwood, I'm just not interested in YA, so I never thought of picking this one up. But my boyfriend actually got this for me because he's a very big chess fan, and he saw this and was like, oh my god, you know, a chess romance, this is for you. So now I'm actually so glad that he gave this to me because I loved this so much. This was almost a 5-star. This was so good. The tension, and especially since I'm someone who doesn't really like YA, I think this was really good. And I loved the romance, but the romance wasn't even like the main plot, but I wasn't mad about that. Like, I liked everything. I loved the chess background. I love to learn about chess, and I mean, I never think about chess now, but it was still enjoyable when I read this. So this one was a huge surprise because I didn't even wanted to pick this one up, but I'm so glad that I did. And then the other surprise that I had is Normal People by Sally Rooney. And I'm saying that this is a surprise because I really didn't want to read this, if I'm honest. I had this on my yearly TBR because I had this on my shelves for years, like since this book came out. For some reason, I was just not really sold on the idea of this book. Then I picked it up 2 pages after total confusion because the writing is so different. I became obsessed with this book and I read it in like a day. Like this was so good and totally surprised me because this was sitting on my shelves for years and years. Why didn't I read it sooner? Especially since I loved the other book by Sally Rooney so much. I'm just really baffled that I thought this wouldn't be for me, but yeah, I'm very glad that I put it on my yearly TBR and kind of forced myself a little bit to read it and ended up loving it. When it comes to a favorite book couple, I really can't just choose one. Basically, every book I really enjoy, I become obsessed with the book couple. But if I would have to narrow it down to my favorite book couples, then first of all, I would just have to mention Brie and Jacob. I love this book so much. One of the best reads I had this year. They're just my babies. Like, I don't know, I just really want to protect them with everything I have. Definitely one of my favorite couples that I've read this year. Then another one, and I'm really unsure sometimes whether or not it's a spoiler if you can say it. So I'm just gonna hold up the book and you will know, because let me tell you that when I read the first book, because of stuff I heard before, I was super confused if I even picked up the right book. So obviously, one of my favorite couples, this bad boy right here, and if you know, you know. Think about them constantly, reread passages constantly, love them so much. I'm also obsessed with this year is Willa and Kate from Heartless by Elsie Silver. Willa and Kate are just superior. I don't know if one of the other couples from Chestnut Springs will ever top them. I read the first 3 books now. I feel like that in Reckless, definitely Winter and Rio have a chance to top them, but I don't know. Willa and Kate just really match perfectly. I love them both separately. I love their journey. I love their book, their love story, and I think they just make an incredible couple and I love them. My other fantasy favorite couple are Gideon and Ruth from Heartless Hunter. That is just also one of my favorite books and I love them. There was so much tension, and obviously this book is the first one of a duology. The second one isn't out yet, so we don't know how this will develop. But I really hope they have a happy end, because otherwise I will be unwell. That brings us to my new favorite authors that I discovered in 2024. And the one that I really first discovered this year is Lauren Roberts. I read all the books and the novella that are out yet from the Powerless universe, and I just really love her writing. I love the story, I love the banter, I love the romantasy, I love the tropes she chose, I love everything, but why I would say already she's one of my favorite authors, that I just really enjoy her writing, and I feel like that's always very distinguishing when it comes to favorite authors, because I definitely have favorite books where I wouldn't necessarily consider the authors to be one of my favorites, but I feel like I will just read anything that Lauren Roberts comes out with. And I have 3 more that I actually read books from those authors in previous years, but I feel like this year I really discovered that they're actually one of my absolute favorites, and they are all author by authors now. And the first one is Ellie Hazelwood. I read every single thing that Ellie Hazelwood came out with, and I feel like especially this year, where I read her YA, where I read her paranormal romance, and I also read her contemporary romance that was so different from all her other romances than also her novellas that came out this year. She really showed us how diverse her writing can be, and that she is willing to risk to do something new and different. Still in a Ellie Hazelwood style, but also challenging for our audience to accept, if that makes sense. And I'm so glad that she took those risks, and they really worked out for me. I just love her writing, and I love that she's doing all these new things. So even though I loved her before, I never considered her as one of my favorite authors. I 100% do now. Then two authors that became favorites this year are Abby Jimenez and Hannah Grace, and I already loved them from the book that I read last year, but I've only read one book from each author last year, so I feel like I can't really say that I have a favorite author if I've only read one book by that author. Like, my rule is to read at least 2, preferably 3 books by an author to say, yeah, that one is a favorite. And I've done that now with Hannah Grace and Abby Jimenez. And even though I knew in 2023 they would become favorite authors, I can confirm now they're favorite authors, they're auto-buy authors. I love their writing so much. I think what they do with romance is just really, really amazing. And yeah, I'm just excited for anything they come out with. Coming now to the opposite side and talking about authors that didn't work out for me this year, and that is, unfortunately, Anna Huang. Anna Huang, I would say, used to be one of my favorite authors. I feel like I felt very safe with what I got from her, that it would always be somehow enjoyable. But I feel like that changed this year, and it might be that my taste developed, it might be that her writing is just kind of too similar to all her other books, so there's nothing new in her books. But what I would say I didn't really enjoy is that I feel like she kind of tries to make her books more emotional. However, they still feel on a surface level. Only that now the books are longer because she wants to make the characters more emotional, but there's no actual depth in that emotion. And I would prefer if she would either just really lean into it and then give the book its actual depth, or, you know, go back to her like fun, spicy ways. And I feel like why the Twisted series by her became so popular is because she was kind of like towing with the line of having like morally gray characters that we would usually see more in dark romance without like writing a dark romance, and that was fun. But now I feel like her books are just not fun anymore. Let's now talk about the happiest read. And the first one I have here is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. And I feel like this made me happy because it had a lot of elements that made me happy. We had cute dogs in here, cute puppies. We had an emotionally available guy. We had great communication. We had F1 mentioned in here. We had one of my favorite series by my favorite authors mentioned in here. Like, I feel like this book just made me super happy with all its details. I love the friendships in here. I love the fun family. Like, this just made me really, really happy. And the other book that made me very, very happy is Play Along by Liz Tom 4D. Again, I feel like the friendships and the found family in that book series just makes me so happy. And especially because the guy was just like not just a golden retriever, like the cutest puppy who was so gone for the girl. Like, obviously that makes me happy. So yeah, these two books just made me smile a lot. And going in the opposite direction again, we're talking about the saddest book this year. And just a little information for you, I'm someone who doesn't really like sad books. Like, if you tell me that a book is very, very sad, but good, it would take me a lot to actually pick it up because I just hate feeling sad. And I feel sad so easily with books as well that I don't really need to read a sad book to feel sad for the characters. I cry super easily in books. One of the saddest books that I read, also very surprising, is God of Fury by Rina Kent. I cried so much at this book, and I don't even want to go into too much detail, but just the way how Brandon saw himself, and also when you come to the end, oh my god. It was so heartbreaking. And I'm glad that it had a happy end, but it was also a book that, I don't know, just made me sad, but in a good way, you know, not in a bad way. Let's talk now about the most frustrating book this year. And I have two for completely different reasons. One is a book that I think was one of the worst books I've read this year, and that is Love Game by Emma Ray. And wow, I should have DNF'd this book. I can recommend this book if you want to read about very bad people. Like, the main characters just annoyed me so much because they just didn't want to take accountability, and they started an affair when he was engaged. The way they acted and how they apologized for themselves or even victimized themselves, when I was like, well, you know, you're actually the bad ones here. And just how everything was written was just so bad, because it's not that I think you can't ever, you know, write a cheating trope. There are definitely examples where it can work if you write it well, but why they also started their affair was basically just because of physical attraction. There was nothing there, but the author tried to convince us that no, it was a love match, and 100% no. Like, it was a match because they were just both awful and therefore deserved each other. But wow, this book frustrated me so much because of the characters. And the other book also frustrated me a lot. I wanted to throw the book around the room against the wall, but it's also one of my favorite books. And that is Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. This book series evokes feelings in me that no other books ever get out of me. And frustration is one of the biggest feelings I feel with these books, but not really in a bad way, because again, this is one of my favorite book series. This is one of my favorite couples. This is one of my favorite characters ever. But no matter how much you love these books, you still get frustrated by these characters so much because they are so flawed, and you just want them to do the right thing over and over again, and they keep choosing to hurt each other, and they keep choosing to do the wrong thing. And oh my god, it's definitely frustrating to read this series, but I don't care because I love it so much. I will go through this again and again. I just really, really, really love these books. The next question is the best adaptation in 2024. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've watched that many adaptations where I also read the books. So the only adaptation that I watched where I also read the books is Maxton Hall. And I think it was a really good adaptation. It wasn't my favorite ever, but since it's the only one that I can remember that I really watched this year, it gets the title to be the best. It was so close to the books, and I feel like it really like captured the essence of the books. But I also read the books like years and years ago. Then we have favorite covers, and I don't know how I am able to choose favorite covers because I'm cover obsessed. I choose books by the cover, and I'm just gonna hold up a few of my favorites. Beautiful covers, love the colors. I love all of the Daisy Hates and Magnolia Parks covers. Then I also actually really, really like the Emily Henry covers. I don't know, they're just so simple, but that's what I love about them. And these are the two books I read by her this year. Love the covers. Then I actually have two Love redesigned covers that I love. I have the original, and I love this one because you get so many like Easter eggs on this one because the shade colors here all correlate to her other books, and I just really, really love that. And then I also have this gorgeous special edition cover for Love Redesigned that I just love. And to show you some other beautiful special editions, these are just so gorgeous. I also got them from my boyfriend, so they're even more special. And just some more that I want to show you. These are Yours Truly and Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez from Eternal Embers. And wow, not just that they're some of my favorite books, but I absolutely love these editions too. So yeah, definitely lots of favorite covers. I could probably pull out even more, but they are just some of my favorites. Coming now to a book that I can't stop thinking about, and I'm gonna say I Can't Stop Thinking About Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I think this was an amazing conclusion to the whole series overall. I mean, these are interconnected standalones, but I would highly suggest reading them in order. And this book was so good, but also actually really sad, to be honest, or at least I cried a lot. And I definitely think about the characters and the story a lot. Everyone in this book series just stays with me constantly. And then another book series that I just can't stop thinking about, like I have to mention them. They are constantly on my mind, and I can't believe I haven't read more than the first two books because in my mind, they take up so much space, but I haven't even finished the series yet. I just can't wait to read the next book in the series. The next question is the cringiest book I read this year, and I would say that is probably Guild, because Guild was like Pretty Little Liars last season and even worse writing. And I feel like that was already so cringe. But wow, this book just really gave me the ick from time to time. I also really hated that the characters were so young and what they did, and it was just very bad writing. And I feel like if it had a different editing, then it could become a lot better. But the way it was now, oh, so cringe. Next up is an unpopular book that I really loved. And I feel like that was hard because I don't think that I read that many unpopular books. However, I chose You Again by Kelt Goldbeck which again, gorgeous cover. I don't even know if this is widely unpopular. I just know that I love this a lot more than the other reviews that I saw. This is a very modern romance with very flawed people. There is definitely a lot of also miscommunication, but to me it really fitted the plot and the characters, so it wasn't there for like unnecessary third act breakup reasons. And I just really loved the story. I understand that these characters are kind of almost annoying, but I feel like for the right audience this will be a favorite. The next question is books that I read that I would reread, and I feel like I actually read a lot of books this year that I really want to reread, so I'm just gonna like put some of the ones out here because there's so many and I really want to focus on rereads next year. So I definitely want to reread Funny Story, I want to read Heartless, I want to read all the Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates books. I 100% want to reread Yours Truly. Obviously, I also want to reread Akamov. I want to reread God of Fury and yeah, make myself cry again apparently. Then I also wrote down Heartless Hunter and Normal People. That brings us also to like our last two questions, which are reading goal, reflections, and 2025 reading goal. And I surpassed actually my reading goal. Like initially I said I think 80 books because that is what I read the past years, but with this book channel I noticed that I picked up more books and I changed the reading goal to 100 books, which I also surpassed, and I think I read now like 110 books, something like that. And for 2025, life-wise, I don't know if I have that much time to read as much as this year, if I'm honest, but I still want to try and read 100 books. I feel like that would be a great goal, and I hate not actually meeting goals. Like, I don't understand how people are okay with it. I hate it. So I definitely want to try my best, but I think 100 are still possible, especially since I'm someone who doesn't really count audiobooks for myself. Like I don't mind what everyone else is doing, but for some reason, whenever I read through audiobooks, I don't know, I don't like saying that I read that book, but I feel like now that I have this book channel, I obviously want to talk about these books, and it's different from, you know, just doing it for myself, because then I never counted the audiobooks towards my reading goals. But now that I do, I feel like it's a lot more possible, and I also want to be okay with it. Like I hate that I think it's cheating for myself that I use audiobooks to read, because it is not. Oh, and as my reading goal reflection, I feel like I definitely want to let myself mood read a little bit more. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on what I read because I started this book channel and I wanted to read books that obviously I loved as well. Like I didn't pick anything up that I thought I would hate. Right now I'm just stressing about what I want to read by the end of the year, and I know that technically it does matter if I read it in December or January, but my brain works like that. Like if I have a yearly TBR stuff that I want to read in a certain amount of time, then like I can't just say, oh, I'm gonna read it afterwards. Like that's not how my brain works, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm very glad once December is over, reading wise, that I'm just gonna let myself read whatever I want. With that, we have our last question answered, and I feel like I've sat here for so long and talked about books, but I hope you really enjoyed this little wrap up of 2025. I have some more fun videos planned. We're also going to talk about my favorites of this year, because I feel like this tag didn't really cover that, and I'm very excited. Hope you're going to be there as well. Give this video a like and also subscribe for more book content in the future, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!